So I love owning my Nissan GTR, and some of my favorite things are of course the power that it makes, but also the sounds. My exhaust system sounds so good from the back, and underneath the hood the turbos make some of the best noises ever. However, one of my kind of complaints with the car is that it's not a refined car whatsoever. Obviously I didn't buy it to be a luxury car, but when I had my 2020 Toyota Supra sitting alongside this, I noticed because of the intervention from BMW with that car, it was so comfortable and refined when out on the highway. You can have a conversation with somebody at a reasonable level and just enjoy cruising. Press sport mode, of course, my full exhaust opened up and you had all the good noises. The GTR, however, being just a Nissan and kind of a race car for the roads, I guess you could call it, it doesn't have that, and it's a pretty noisy car when out on the highway. When I installed the lowering springs recently, I had to take out quite a lot of the interior to gain access to the back. And if we go into the car, you can see just how much I had to take out. You can see all the bare metal in here. And the thing I noticed, there's really no sound insulation in the back of this car. You just have the tin metal, as you can see, with this plastic stuff just snapped right on top of it. So you pretty much have no sound insulation. And then if you get to the trunk as well, you have a carpet in here, but if you just grab it, underneath it is just more bare metal, and same with all of that. It's just bare metal underneath it. So that got me kind of thinking, when I look in the interior of the car, pretty much from here back is all bare metal with just plastic snapped onto it. So there's no sound insulation. So when you're in the car, half of your main cabin is just gonna reverberate sound, and that's why it's kind of a noisy car on the interior. And I'm not complaining that, you know, I bought a GTR expecting it to be a Mercedes. It's not that. It's just, I think they could have done a little bit better with the sound insulation. So what I did, I found this on Amazon. It is basically sound deadening material. I'll have this all linked below. It was about 50 bucks, and this was 36 square feet of this material. It's basically aluminum foil with a rubber coating type thing in the middle, and then it has an adhesive backing. So with this, I can peel it up, and I'm basically gonna stick this onto the interior of the car and all that bare metal that you saw. And then of course, all this other stuff is just gonna pop back on top of it. And I think that might do a really good job kind of chilling out the interior, making it not so noisy when on the highway. So I'll go ahead and play a quick time lapse. When I took out all the interior from the back seats, you pretty much just start with popping the seats out, which is really easy. Start taking the center out. There's only like 2 screws in the center for the shroud around the speakers. You pop that off, and then pop all the side paneling off, and then there's a few plastic bolts on the top shelf, and you can remove that. And it's pretty easy to get the rear end interior out. Let's go ahead and move on to the trunk now and take some of this apart. So like I already mentioned, the trunk liner literally just sits in here. It's a piece of carpet on the bare metal flooring. So we'll get that out of here. I can start pulling this big piece of plastic out of the car. All right, so from here, I just gotta remove all these little plastic pieces that hold in the trunk liner. And as you can see, just like we saw in the back, this is the whole trunk liner. Aside from this, basically plastic with a little bit of felt on it, this is the only insulation we get in the rear. It's all just metal trunk in here. And there's even holes in this entire aluminum piece that go into the trunk. So all the stuff you hear in the trunk is gonna come right through into the interior cabin. So I have these sheets, and they're about 2.5 feet-ish square. And I'm gonna basically stick it right here and slowly mold it over. And luckily the aluminum foil is pretty much aluminum foil, so I can cut it with a razor blade when needed. It is pretty moldable actually, which is nice to see. All right, well there's one fender piece all done. Pretty sweet. So a little bit of time later, I think I'm pretty much wrapped up with the rear end. As you saw in the first clip, you basically take these sheets of, they feel like foil with rubber lining them, and you just smush it down into place. And then I spent a little bit extra time with scissors even, cutting them into like custom pieces to fit. It's kind of hard to get this all really in like one piece like I've seen on other photos, but I have this whole fender that was just bare metal that's covered in one solid piece, then a few pieces over that piece. And then of course I had to do quite a few with all the contours down here. And these panels are still accessible, which is great because the fuel pumps are right here. It looks kind of funky back here for sure. But I think that's about it for this. Now we're gonna move on to the trunk, which should be way easier. This is basically just a big tin can. And with everything out, you can see how everything is just bare metal once again. So I finished up doing the trunk. It's been a lot easier comparing it to the interior, and I don't have to be smushed inside the car. But as you can see, it looks pretty good in here. I have the whole floor done. Looks kind of like aluminum foil for the floor. And then you can see the whole fender arch down, and then a little bit up there. I've re-tucked these wires all the way, that way they'll be hidden once the piece is back. The air compressor and the hose for my exhaust are in a new spot, that way they're out of the way. And you can see that size. As far as the tools I'm using, I'm actually using the handle part of these scissors to kind of smush it down, and even just a skateboard wheel to roll it. There is a roller tool you can get, but I didn't feel like buying it for a one-time project. But that is it. I'm not gonna do this part just because that whole plastic piece pops onto it nice and flush. But nonetheless, you know, 80-90% of the interior of this trunk is all done. And then going back to the interior of the car like you already saw. So now we're gonna time lapse, get the trunk back together and get the interior back together, and then see if this thing did anything. Alright, so everything is now all back together. It's nice seeing the car with an interior. It's actually been about 2 weeks with no interior. But so far, I just left the neighborhood, not even warmed up or anything. I am actually already blown away. So here's my comparison. When you walk into a brand new house, not a single thing in the house, you know that echoey sound that you'll hear because there's no furniture, there's nothing there. It just kind of feels empty. You can hear the space basically. And then when you furnish the house completely, everything's in it. There's a much nicer tone, the way your voice sounds in the house and everything like that. Already under just the initial startup in my garage, the car had more of a bass tone to how it sounded starting up, instead of hearing like that spacey, empty air sound. And when I put it into reverse, I didn't even hear the transmission shift, which this car is a very noisy drivetrain, very noisy everything. I'm in valve closed right now, quiet mode. This is noticeably quieter, and even off camera, I actually did a few more pieces on the center transmission tunnel, because that's literally on top of the transmission. And then all of that in the trunk and everything, I'm actually blown away. I genuinely didn't really know what to expect. Looking at it, you think it's some aluminum foil and rubber. I mean, what's it gonna do? The car is so much quieter. I'm going 50 miles an hour, and I am literally talking like in a normal car. This is insane, because the way the GTR is stock, there is just so much noise behind you. And again, it's not the engine and exhaust noise, the fun noises. It's the annoying, spacey, airy noise that makes this car kind of beat you up a little bit if you're on a full day road trip, which I do that. I go to the mountains 300 miles, all day, and it can beat you up a little bit. It can wear you out by the end of the day. Wow, that is so impressive. Let's do valve open. Even that right there, I don't know if you can hear the little beep, because that's the way this one works. When you hit the on, you hear a little beep. That was noticeably quieter. So getting up to speed. Honestly, that even had a little bit deeper tone to it. Oh my gosh. For 50 bucks, I think I just made this car like 99.9% perfect. Yeah, the exhaust tone is much different now that the car is actually well insulated. It sounds just that extra bass, I guess you could say. That's the best way to describe it. Even if I crack the windows a little bit. See, that still sounds the exact same because that's what I'm used to with the windows down. But windows up, that is so impressive. I can barely hear that beep of the compressor back there for the active system. So valves closed. The car just has such a more solid sound, and the overall road noise is so much better. This is a kind of a crappy road right now. We're going 50. I can literally hear myself think. So honestly, thumbs up for the product. I just found it on Amazon, 50 bucks. I did 36 square feet. The entire package weighed 18 pounds. There's some weight to it to obviously do what it needs to do. I didn't use all the sheets, so I would say I used maybe 25 square feet of it. And I probably could have done a few more pieces. I think there were some different sizes, but I'll have a few different ones linked down below on Amazon. So I am really impressed. I can't believe how good that is. Definitely check out the product. I'll have it linked down below. For those of you with a car that you think is just a little noisy for the road noise, the highway cruising aspects, I would highly recommend doing this in the interior. And I could even go a step further and do the roof. I could do more of the trunk, and I could even strip more of the interior and do more, or the doors. But I'm loving it the way it is. If you guys enjoyed today's video, give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, stay tuned for plenty more content, and I just made my GTR even better. I'll see you guys in the next video.